Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. I want to share an awesome new scenario for Age of Empires 2 up on the Steam Workshop. It's a co-op RPG based on The Lord of the Rings. The scenario is made by Spectator and edited by Lakodon, who also did the overhaul of the Game of Thrones map by Bitterland, which I covered a while back. In order to get the map, you have to subscribe to it on the Steam Workshop, along with a special AI and a Lord of the Rings graphics mod. The graphics mod is a Steam version of a very well-known and acclaimed Age of Conquerors mod called Tales of Middle-earth. Even just by itself, that mod is amazing, and I'd encourage you, whether you're on Steam or Voobly, to check it out. The main focus for this video though is the RPG scenario. All 6 players control one member of the Fellowship, except for the purple player who controls both Frodo and Sam. You might notice that's only 7 instead of the 9 members. It turns out Merry and Pippin aren't included. It seems they slept in on the day everyone left Rivendell and they just went on without them. Now, being an RPG, it has some familiar elements like leveling up through experience, which gives stat buffs. You also have a limited number of healing items in your inventory, and characters have special abilities that give temporary effects with a cooldown afterward. You can also use the ring, which Frodo has at the start, and temporarily makes him invisible. Anyone in possession and using the ring is ignored by enemies for a brief period of time. If Frodo dies, the ring passes to another member of the Fellowship who can then use it. You don't need to understand all of the mechanics to watch and appreciate the game, nor do you necessarily need to know anything about Lord of the Rings. Any Tolkien fans will quickly discover the story is not 100% faithful to the books and movies, borrowing from both, but also embellishing in ways that I think actually make it more interesting and fun. The main objective is to travel across the map and reach Mount Doom, where you can destroy the ring. I recently played a game with the creator and some other veteran players, so now that you have a sense of what's going on, let's jump into it. After an opening cinematic with the Fellowship taking cover from Saruman's spies, similar to the movie, they head out on their quest, making for the pass of Caradhras. It's not long until they encounter their first of many ambushes to come. It proves a nice opportunity for everyone to hone their skills against some relatively weak opponents. Now, it might seem like an RPG trope that each of them are easily killing dozens of minions, but that's actually pretty faithful to the source material. Gimli and Legolas at Helm's Deep, for example, make a game out of killing Urukhia in both the book and movie. And in that one battle alone against particularly strong and armored enemies, each one had over 40 kills. The objective at each of these battles is to destroy the yurts from which some Dunlendings are spawning, which is pretty easy to do with the entire Fellowship fighting together. Each character has unique characteristics, like Gimli's extra pierce armor, Legolas's ranged attack, and Gandalf's healing ability. Working together and making use of all of those different strengths is really what the scenario is all about. The Fellowship then move north to explore the area, though they don't get very far before they're ambushed by an Oliphant. It's many times, perhaps even 8 times larger than a typical elephant, and takes several heroes to bring it down, though it still only counts as one. Continuing on, the group finds the brown wizard Radagast. Being a lover of nature and especially connected with animals, he gives them 2 hawks that will circle whoever has the ring. At the moment, that's Frodo, but remember, if he dies, the ring is passed to another player who can also then use it to turn invisible. At this point, everyone is already quite a bit stronger than when they started, with between plus 40 and plus 70 attack buffs, plus some have a few extra armor you can pick up from lootable stashes. They soon encounter another Oliphant, which is again easily handled, and are ambushed by some archers. As an example of teamwork, Gimli distracts and tanks their arrows, while Legolas picks them off. At this point, more fights against wild Dunlendings ensue. Through teamwork, they defeat not only hundreds of infantry units, but also archers and warg riders. The Fellowship slowly makes their way south, constantly fighting off raids, and always being mindful of not being surrounded and, of course, working as a team. The largest threat is an ambush by a Dunlending chieftain along with some archers, but again, Gimli draws their arrows and the Fellowship escapes. At this point, they're approaching the pass of Caradhras. Whether because of Saruman's spells or the evil nature of the mountain itself, it's a perilous journey of falling rocks and ice. Being unable to cross the pass and having to turn back, the Fellowship are forced to go through the Mines of Moria instead. It's a dangerous path, but there's really no other choice. After a quick journey and a bit of fighting, the Fellowship reach the gates of Moria, but need to solve a riddle in order to enter. There are various Elvish passwords written on different outposts, and they need to choose the right one in order to enter. Upon opening the door, they're attacked and have to rush in. Unfortunately, as they enter, Gandalf is buried under a pile of falling rocks, making him glitch into the wall. It looks like Gandalf's journey might be over, but there is a hope. The Fellowship need to find a ram for Gandalf to garrison into. There is one, but it's several rooms ahead, and now the Fellowship is down a member. But with his words of encouragement, they fight through regardless. Upon getting the ram, they send it back, which Gandalf is able to use to make himself unstuck from the wall. Almost immediately afterwards though, Boromir glitches through a cliff of his own and is blocked by a pile of loot. He's saved by Gimli at the last second just before being cornered and mauled by a troll. Moria is a dangerous place, and in the immortal words of Tolkien, the Ring of Power can make the wearer invisible, but only multiplayer lag can let you clip through walls completely. Wise words. Moria itself is a twisting maze of caves to navigate, but Gandalf leads the way down all the correct tunnels. There are goblins around every turn, and even the odd cave troll. As a side note, if you really want the authentic cave experience when playing, this is when you turn your brightness settings down as low as they'll go. After bridges, orcs, trolls, fire pits, bears, caves, and goblin archers down a passage that require rams to get through, the Fellowship finally reach a clearing of relative safety. At this point, the only problem is they forgot Frodo. It turns out he wandered off on his own at one point and no one noticed. He found his way into an optional dungeon and was trapped by himself with a cave troll. Using the ring and all of his healing potion, Frodo manages to somehow kill the troll in single combat and rejoin the others. Once reunited, the question becomes which way to go. For whatever reason, Gandalf can't seem to remember. Following his nose, he leads them down the path to the left, though again in what's starting to become an unfortunate pattern, Frodo goes the wrong way. While not working together quite as well as they did earlier, they make progress through the mines until eventually finding a dwarf relic. Everyone knows that any time an RPG gives you an item, you better take it with you, so they bring it along for the time being. The next room contains a winding hallway barricaded off and vulnerable to archer fire. Aragorn and Boromir jump ahead to clear the path, but Aragorn is cut down by goblin archers. So ends the tale of Aragorn. Chased by a cave troll and blocked by the dwarf relic, Boromir is nearly killed as well, but manages to escape. The Fellowship regroup and push forward deeper into Moria, undeterred by an increasingly perilous quest. At one point, the relic also becomes handy and is used to unlock the next part of the dungeon. Gimli and Legolas, quite good friends at this point, decide to go off on their own adventure in Moria. You can read all the details in their fanfic, but basically they kill a dragon together. This part somehow doesn't make it into the movie or the novels. The next part you should recognize though from the movie as they enter Balin's tomb. Even without Pippin present, the hobbits still drop a cart into the well and awake the orcs of Moria. Multiple waves of orcs rush into the room, and the third and largest wave is accompanied by a cave troll. As they're backed into a corner, Gandalf uses his magic to dazzle the orcs with a blast of light and freeze them in their tracks. He can only use this ability once in the entire journey, but has saved it just for this moment. As even more trolls appear and the orcs begin to wake up, the Fellowship escape through a nearby tunnel. It's at this point that the Fellowship loses their second member, Legolas, who becomes trapped inside a wall. No one knows exactly how it happened, but this time there are no rams around to garrison into and escape. The rest of the Fellowship have to carry on. As they enter the next room though, the orcs catch up and surround them, closing in. That is, until a sound scatters the orcs. A dark, ancient growl is heard in the halls, when suddenly across the room a Balrog appears. The Fellowship spring into action and run. As they're chased across bridges in the dark, they're attacked by goblin archers in the distance. Upon reaching the end of the bridge, Gandalf stops and turns to face the Balrog alone. He destroys the bridge, seemingly killing the creature. As it falls, it reaches out for him with its whip, but cleverly Gandalf is standing more than a foot away from the ledge and isn't pulled down into the abyss. With the way out of Moria in sight, the Fellowship sprint for the exit, when they're suddenly ambushed by Nazgul. Despite being outnumbered, 3 of the Fellowship members are able to escape, but Boromir is trapped. He fights for his life, but he's overwhelmed. Just like that, Boromir is dead, and the Fellowship is reduced to 4. There's no time to reflect on the loss though. Pursued by orcs, they run into the nearby forest of Lothlorien. As a stroke of good luck, they're taken in by peaceful elves and welcome to stay and recover by Galadriel and Celeborn. Finally, after all of their dangers and friends they lost in Moria, the remaining heroes can rest, reflect, and take the proper time to mourn. Just kidding. Frodo offers the ring to Galadriel, which she happily takes, and is immediately corrupted by its evil. As orcs pour into Lothlorien and the Fellowship are forced to fight, Galadriel battles her own soldiers, who give their lives trying to stop her from unleashing her terrible power on the world. Gimli sneaks up behind and is the one to finally kill her, taking a few of her hairs and a locket to remember her by. With Galadriel dead and the once peaceful Lothlorien now a burning ruin, our heroes use the confusion to sneak away with 3 transport ships and continue their journey to Mordor. As they go down the Great River, they're shadowed by a party of Urukhia. They continue on, blissfully unaware of the danger they're in, taking in the impressive scenery as they go. Landing their boats though, they see the Urukhia up ahead. The plan is for the hobbits to go in first and use the ring to invisibly kill as many as possible. A tough fight ensues, especially because they're missing so many of their friends, but the hobbits at this point are battle-hardened and take on dozens of enemies on their own. It's at this moment though, on the shore of the Anduin, just after reaching level 6, that Gimli is surrounded and overwhelmed. The original Fellowship of 7 that fought together so well has been reduced to Gandalf, Frodo, and Sam. Despite the loss, only one last Urukhia remains, the strongest of the group, who comes within 1 strike of killing Gandalf. But the hobbits successfully lure it away and with the assistance of the ring are able to deal a lethal blow. Pushing onward, Gandalf and the hobbits successfully cross the Dead Marshes, and after a surprisingly short walk, reach Mordor. Sauron's fortress can be seen off in the distance, and just beside it is Mount Doom, the only place where the ring can be destroyed. All that stands in their way appears to be one small palisade wall. Gandalf sends the hobbits forward to complete the task. But as they reluctantly ascend the mountain, the path is suddenly blocked by Sauron in physical form. Frodo puts on the ring and attacks, but Sauron sees through the disguise and strikes Frodo down. The ring passes to Gandalf, who slips it on and clashes with Sauron, a much stronger but injured foe, and defeats him. With Sam nearby and resisting the overwhelming temptation of the ring, Gandalf throws it into the fire, destroying its evil and Sauron forever. Now, one awesome thing about this scenario is that despite being mostly linear, there's an element of randomness to many encounters throughout it. Different enemies and ambushes appear in repeated playing, and there are optional side quests that we didn't explore on this particular run. As far as RPG scenarios go, I find it's also less dependent on retracing your steps to heal a lot or grinding out kills for the sake of leveling up, which gives it pretty sustained action throughout. It also doesn't end everyone's run if 1 or 2 people are new and get themselves killed early on. My favorite part though is how cinematic it is. Certain points look a lot like the movies, and it has a lot of audio clips from the movie play at key parts if you're subscribed on Steam. The graphics mod also helps a lot with the immersion, and it's awesome having so many people donating their time to put these things together for everyone to enjoy. If you are interested in playing your own game with your friends, here's the proper setup at the start of the game with civilizations and settings. Notice the Lord of the Rings mod needs to be selected. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.